Hello,
Hey,
Hello.
we'll
got the
just
live stream up.
see how this
Sweet.
looks. Oh, two.
A little high.
Yeah, hold on. Whoa. Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
Can you push the screen this way?
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
A little bit more, so
More,
more.
more.
I like to go.
There we go. That'll work, right? We good?
Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
In my sink.
I want to go.
It's a working kitchen,
It really is.
as they
And
say.
everything's content, so I definitely recorded prepping the galette. Like I might as well.
Nice.
Love it. I'm so excited.
It'll be what it'll be.
It'll be amazing. Are you kidding? If
Just make-
anybody can teach anybody pie, you are the lady.
Well, this is my version of pie, so we'll see. It's not very traditional, but it's the way my mom taught me, and I'm gonna stick to it. So
Perfect.
yeah. Your house seems quiet, Bill, if you're there alone with two children.
Zoom, they're partially occupied. Thank goodness.
Zoom is impressive
Yeah.
because kids are not quiet.
Daddy, I'm all done with that.
Hey, whenever we'll have
Well,
plenty.
we just got Tony and Danielle in the waiting room. I'm gonna mute.
No, not yet. Just hopping on to make sure all the stuff is.
I'm ready for some pie, Michelle.
Okay, well, what's not fun about this is nobody's here to taste it after except my sister. Drew's gonna be gone. He's going out for lunch with his brother, so I'll just have the galette for lunch. How's that?
That's right. We'll all be over.
Okay.
Michelle, you might want to turn off any audio optimizations or mutings or turn it on to like the music recording audios, just because it's I think you're a little bit quiet. Maybe is that happening for anyone else too?
Hey, my IT guy. Turn
It
off
sounds
the
pretty clear
sound.
to me.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, me.
What?
I closed every window that had any sound running on it. But is it, I can talk louder.
What are you
It's clear
hearing?
for you.
Am
You all
I-
hear her okay?
I hear someone's music,
That's the soundboard. Yeah,
Ah.
we're running music.
but otherwise, do you guys hear stuff?
The music?
No, am I loud enough, I guess?
Okay,
Okay,
you're good.
okay. Great. Okay.
25.
Okay. Hi Priya, hi Matt, hi Pooja, Maria,
Hi, how are you?
and my sister.
Hey everyone. Happy
That's
Friday.
Happy Friday.
Indeed, what a week.
How's everyone doing today?
Good, I'm baking. I've been stress baking a lot this week. I don't know. So thanks for joining me in my stress baking of pies today. It helps. It's good for my headspace, especially hanging out with all of you. So
I agree with that sentiment a lot, Michelle. I've been throwing myself into food and community as like
Yeah.
my means of sanity this week.
yeah,
So I feel, yeah, I have my stuff ready in the kitchen. I wasn't sure if we were doing like chat first and then bake.
so be a little chat first and then ready, set, bake, as Noel would say. Bake. Sorry, it's a great British
I love it.
it.
On your
And he
mark,
always puts his
get
arm up like,
set,
bake.
bake.
I can't do the accent. I could try, but one day we just all need to do a happy hour all together and make food together.
Sounds
Food
good to
social
me.
potluck.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
can you imagine? We would eat for days and days and days.
It's tomorrow.
Oh,
It would be the
I just
happy
wanted
hour.
I just wanted to thank Michelle and Pooja for such a nice time on the podcast. I really enjoyed chatting.
Oh, we had a
Thank
great time, Priya. It was really much needed at that time for me, and it was great. You're great to interview. And
thank
I
you.
made your tikka masala Sunday for dinner.
Good.
And everyone, there was nothing left. I said what was left, little was left home with my sister because she's like, I love this. So
Thank you.
yeah,
It was so fun to interview you, Priya.
Yeah.
It was like such a bright spot, I know, for both Michelle and me. We couldn't stop talking about it for the rest of the week.
yeah,
Thank you. It was a big bright spot for me too, because
Yeah.
yeah, like as you said, I was going through a bit of a rough time too. So
yeah.
it just was really, I think we all needed it.
I know. And
We did.
same when we've done Maria, Matt, Reed. I mean, they're all here. So
Allie?
yeah, and Allie was one of the OG from season 1. Right? Were you in season 1? And Reed was.
Mhm.
too.
So,
Yeah.
And Tony, I saw your order come through today. Thank you. That was such a
I-
nice surprise.
Actually, that's my second order. I ordered earlier and followed your recipe. It was amazing. So thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I told
saw that.
Tony he has to make the coconut rice too. Like go to
Oh,
the
yeah.
making that because that and this last time I found my cashews. So I had the cashews, I had all the components this time, and it's just so
Yeah. And my mom recently, because I usually just eat coconut rice with like meat products, but she made it with potato, just a regular potato curry that we have. We do have a packet for that. And I couldn't believe how much it like amped it up. She's like, you can eat it with anything. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah,
So-
I've eaten
So
yes,
I
by
made
the
it with I literally got from Giant Eagle, the roasted chicken, because I'm a meatitarian. So I got the roasted chicken. I put the potatoes with it, like the spicy potatoes and the coconut rice. And my son, who's very picky, like ate it all up. Like he first tasted it from my plate, and then he's like, "Oh, I want some." So I'm like, "Here."
Oh, that's a
It
good
wasn't
time.
enough.
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah, it was
Oh,
good.
fun. Yeah. Well, Tony's a great rice maker. So
Oh,
I just told him he's got to do the next step and do the coconut rice.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's his
Next
specialty.
time, I'll do it for sure.
Yeah, I made it actually in the rice cooker, and my husband didn't care for it as much as you make it like on the stove.
Oh.
For me personally, I was good with either ways, but
Yeah.
he's
That's a
picky
good
too,
thought, too.
so yeah.
I've never actually used a rice maker before.
Oh,
We always
really?
just have done it on the stove.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
use
super
ours
convenient.
all the time.
Yeah, I love mine. I have a little small one because it's just Drew and I. So I just make it's just a small one, and then we have a huge one when all my family and grandkids and everyone come. But
Nice.
we have the small and then the 10
Big,
cup.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. Maybe we should dive right in. Maybe some quick updates on food social happenings. One of the big things that happened this week was we pushed a style update that had touched a lot of parts of the platform, the explore pages, the profile pages, and recipe pages too. So like 95% of the pages on the platform got style updates, which is really exciting. We're working through some minor kinks with those. Active users will know, Maria knows, that drafts are not showing up on profiles. Maria, you actually helped us identify that issue, so thank you. Our chat with our developers makes it look like that's going to be pretty easy to solve. So should have a solution there in the next day or so. That's the super quick dev update. I guess the other part is we've been working on moving app production, app development along. It still looks like we're on track to having a version 1 of a food social app by the end of the year, which is very exciting. Notifications are a big driver for the infrastructure that we're building, and so we're being very thoughtful about how we approach some of the native functionality that comes through the app. So things that we're working on behind the scenes. We'll update you more as things move along. Allie, I think you had some updates as well you wanted to share on this call.
Yeah, so we officially launched our ebook last week, and I'm gonna play a soundboard. Woohoo! So if you haven't seen it yet, it is in the market and we are pricing it at $10. And there's also an optional donation on top of that as well. So our goal is a lofty goal. We're aiming to collect $5,000 for proceeds to go to World Central Kitchen, which is an amazing organization. They provide hot and ready meals to those in different stages of crises. So we're really passionate about this cause and it aligns really much so with what we're doing here. So we would love all of your support to help promote it, to help share about it. And we'll be sending an email to the community later just with some more information, a free copy of the ebook so that you can see just how amazing it is and help us promote it to reach our goal. Also, we are working on different blog posts. We have Elizabeth from our community who's been spending a lot of amazing time putting her brain powers to help create blog posts that are just either seasonally appropriate or help us share about different like baking tips and tricks and all of that. So I'm going to drop two that were just published recently. One is about mastering Thanksgiving turkey. So you can use that to help share about food social if it's natural to what you're sharing about already. And then we also published one about different baking flours and ways that you can utilize them. All of them are recipe centric with some great information, and they also talk about the market products as well. So you'll see more of those hitting the food social feed as well as the regular recipes that get put out. So check out the ebook, check out the posts, help us share about them in whatever way feels best to you. And that's my update. You're muted.
Muted, of course. That's because we have a dog that barks all the time here.
Oh, darling.
Anyone else from the team have any updates they want to share about food social happenings in the last
Did you
week?
mention the gift guides, Allie?
Oh, thank you. We also published some gift guides. So what better way to shop and support than through our own food social market? So we have 6 gift guides that cover everything from bakers to hosting and all of these fun different categories. They are on the main page of the food social market. So definitely check them out and happy shopping.
Yeah, they're really fun collections, I think. Tony and Allie put those together. Allie, Tony, Allie,
Tony,
Allie.
I think
and
Allie,
input from everybody.
yeah, a little bit of feedback. We'll probably make a couple more additions. We just wanted to get a few out to get out right away. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's another way to shop, and obviously everyone's going into the gift
Very
giving
fun.
season.
And yeah, if you have any suggestions for other guides, let us know. I think everyone loves to get foodie stuff for Christmas. At least foodies, I think, like to get foodie stuff for gift giving and receiving. That's how I've learned about a lot of fun new things is through gifts of food. So
It's so funny, Michelle, just now, this is a very specific reference, but for those who watch Friends, when you talked about giving and receiving, it reminded me of when Joey is trying to write the vows for Chandler and Monica's wedding, and he just like is talking about giving and receiving and giving and receiving.
Such a good episode.
oh yeah. Oh, Friends. So many references we could pull from that show.
I mean, the fact that you had that ready is just so impressive to me.
Thank you.
Allie's always ready, on the go.
Well, speaking of ready, are we ready to dive in to our pie making class here?
You're ready, I'm ready. My timer's gonna go off here in just a few minutes. And in full transparency, baking sometimes doesn't work out great. The galette I have cooking burst. One side just leaked everywhere. So it just happens sometimes. So there you go. I tried to repair it inside the hot oven. It's kind of tricky, but so.
It's a teachable moment, right?
It is. That's what, even I've made this how many times, this skillet that I baked ahead of time, because there's more than one way to use a pie crust. It's from our book. It's also on Food Social. The publisher said I could post on my blog, but they live here too. A few from the cookbook, and it actually adorns the cover of our cookbook. It's right there on the front, right there too. But this was, it's a recipe. My mom loved cherry pie, so I kind of twisted it up a notch and made it added some time to it. But first off, let me just back history on pies and why I love them so much. And I'm going to date myself a lot here. I have been making pies for 5 decades. I was adding it up because I started making pies with my mom when I was like 8 or 9. I'm turning 60 next week. And so as I was counting, I'm like, that sounds like so many decades, and it is. But anyways, I, during the holidays, was the pie crust maker for my mom. It was turned over to me. She learned a recipe from her home ec teacher back in the 50s, I would say. It wasn't a very traditional crust because it used warm water, not cold water, like a lot of people are used to making. So my pie recipe, my pie crust recipe, when we had to switch the way we were eating, back 9 years ago or 10 years ago, was it 10? It was 10 years ago this year. Pie crust was no longer something available to us. I couldn't figure out how to make it with an almond flour. So once autos hit the market, I have never looked back, and that made so many things possible, and it made my pie crust recipe possible. And then, so this pie crust recipe went live back in 2015, exactly almost 9 years ago this month. And then a few years later, back in 2020, besides the pandemic, Jen of Legit Bread reached out to me, and she made it into a premix for everybody for convenience, which was lovely. It was quite an honor for me to be involved with her. The bag is purple because my mom's favorite color was purple, is purple. So in honor to her, it is a purple bag, which she was thrilled to have a purple one because she didn't have that in her color of bags. So anyways, this bakes 2 pie crusts. It is grain-free, gluten-free, all the things. Anyways, that's why I love pies. So back in 2015, we finally had a Thanksgiving where not only the fillings were paleo, but we had pie crust to match, and I have never looked back in terms of how many ways I've used it. One thing I did not do, which I should have, I did not create any kind of meal plan or anything with all my pies and ways I've used it on Food Social. If you type in a search back porch pie, they will all come up, but so will other pies that aren't necessarily using my pie crust recipe, which is fine. But you can use it for more than just making a pie. I've made many things, hand pies, little pies. So anyways, I'm just gonna dive in because actually my timer is gonna go off. Let me, no, let me just, this gullet could not be ready yet, but let me check. Now I can tell it needs 5 more minutes at least. So, okay. So a couple tips. What I wanted to do is, and if someone would like to read me any questions or go off, go off mute and ask me questions if you want. You can drop them in the chat. Someone can tell me what people are asking if you're interested. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking because I'm like this. Put a nickel in me, I'm just going to talk. So,
But don't hesitate to interrupt.
Yeah, but please interrupt me also. Couple tips. One thing with no matter the flour, if you're not going to weigh it and do the kitchen scale approach, before you use, especially cassava flour, you have to fluff it up first. You have to fluff it. If you scoop out flour out of a bag, you're gonna have way too much. I have measured it and weighed it, and sometimes you get 2 to 3 tablespoons more flour than you need. And in baking, which is basically a chemistry experiment, you're set up to fail. So you must always, I like to just take a whisk, fluff it up, and then you spoon it into your measuring cup, always.
Michelle,
Yeah.
Matt is asking what the measurements are for the flour and starch.
If, can someone drop, if you search, it's 3/4 cup autos plus 2 tablespoons, and then 2 tablespoons of arrowroot starch. But if someone can drop my pie crust recipe, the OG, in the chat.
Got it.
Allie, I don't think I included that on that list of, I gave
Food you
Allie
got you covered.
else. What?
You're good. It's in there.
Okay, so it is 3/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of autos, fluffed, not scooped, fluffed, and 2 tablespoons of arrowroot starch. That's the dry, plus a little pinch of salt. You can add cinnamon if you want, flavor it however you'd like. I will say, if you're going to use the mix, there's instructions for single and double crust on the back. If you're gonna measure it out of this bag, fluff it up, don't scoop. I will, unless you're gonna weigh stuff, anyways, that's what you need to do. In terms of fats for this, I've had a lot of questions over the years. My original, when I first made this, I used butter. While that does lend a great flavor, I have the last 4 or 5 years been using this organic spectrum shortening, which is it's kind of a warm fuzzy. My mom used Crisco back in the day, like who didn't use that? Anyways, this works. Coconut oil will also work. If you need a vegan crust, you'll also have to use an egg sub. But I put together a little graphic, Allie, if you want to put that in the chat, of different subs I've tried over the years and the way it might look differently. The egg replacer that I have found that is best is Bob's Red Mill. That's on the graphic if you want to look at that. The chia egg never worked really great. The flaxseed, it just didn't perform as well, but the Bob's Red Mill, while traditional pie crust doesn't have an egg in it, my mom's recipe needed a little lift. And so the egg provided that lift to make it perform better. So, but shortening, this has been my go-to. I think it performs a lot better than, yes, Hot Pockets. I do have a Hot Pocket recipe on Food Social as well. I just say play with your food. Play with your dough, and just, it's your Play-Doh. It's an adult version of Play-Doh that you can bake and actually eat. So anyways, so that's the fat. I grew up using a pie crust cutter. This is very old. I can't remember when I got it, but that is the best way for me that I like to cut my fat into my flour, my dry ingredients. Matt, I don't know, what are you using? Everyone's a little different, but that's what I like.
I was contemplating just using my my KitchenAid, but I also have like sorry, I need more coffee. Whatever this is called, a bench scraper that I can use. I think because I don't have one of those devices.
Yeah, it's fine. And I was gonna say, whatever gets the job done for you, but I just grew up using a pastry cutter, and I just like the way it cuts the fat right into the dough. And I have to clean it off every now and then, but I just feel like that incorporates it really well. I know some people have used knives. I've never tried that, like 2 butter knives. It just, that seemed, I just always have this. So this is what I use. So, okay, let me really quick check this skillet. Okay. We'll let that cool off a little bit. Once it's cooler, I'll lift it over here and show you. Anyways, let's keep going. So I'm just showing, I had my dry ingredients pre-measured, but there's 2 steps here. You've got to work the fat in, well, 3 steps really. So work the fat in so it's evenly distributed. Reed, I saw you had your apron on. Are you cooking along as well? Baking, pie crusting?
I am pie crusting. Look at me go.
Great.
I'm gonna
Go
make a sweet
fun.
potato pie. I have sweet potatoes in the oven.
Okay, so like a pumpkin pie kind of thing, but it's sweet potato?
Yeah,
Okay, I've heard of that. I've never tried it.
it's a very southern thing, and I've actually never made one with whole potatoes. I've only
I
made it
love
with
sweet
canned
potato
sweet
pie.
Oh,
potatoes.
do you put like, do you sweeten it like, can you put marshmallows on top like you would
Yeah,
have?
yeah. It's just like a pumpkin pie. It
But
actually has
better, in my
almost,
opinion.
it has almost like a similar like nutritional value even.
Yeah, because when I think sweet potatoes at, Thanksgiving, I always have lots of marshmallows on top. So
Mm.
you could probably put a marshmallow fluff on top of that, right? Is
Yeah.
that what you do?
I don't do that, but you can.
Okay.
It has a similar mouthfeel to pumpkin pie, but I feel
Yeah.
like the flavor of it I prefer.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like pumpkin pie. So I know. I know. People are like, what? Okay, moving on. I am now adding my whisk egg. You just whisk it up, whisk it, whisk it, whisk. Sorry. So let me show you first what the texture of that looks like for those that are baking or not. It's just, it looks like, wet sand might on a beach, which is a lovely thought this time of year. So, okay, we're gonna add the egg, and from here, I just stirred in with a fork initially until I add the liquid. And the recipe calls for water. I have used, just for kicks and giggles, in one of my recipes, they're little jam polymers. I use sparkling water, like a LaCroix, any kind of berry flavor. I have a lemon tart that I use the limoncello LaCroix, a little sparkling water. So you can get kind of creative with that, but it's just room temperature water. If you use one of those LaCroix, make sure it hasn't been in the fridge, because any kind of cold element you add to this at this point will seize up the fat. It'll seize up the shortening. So I have added the egg, and you'll see it's already starting to come together, but we're not done yet. You're gonna think, oh, it's ready to go. And this might be good on top of chili to bake in the oven or something. I'll have to try that. But from here, we're just gonna add the water. And I'm just doing a single pie crust. So add the water, and this is where it's gonna be like, oh, this is way too much liquid, but give it just a few minutes, and the more you work with it. Where are you, Matt and Reed? Where are you at? I don't want to leave you behind.
Adding water.
I'm
You're
with you.
okay, great. Reed,
I'm with you.
okay, you're awesome.
Thanks, chef.
Can you remind us, Michelle, is it warm water or cold water?
It's just room temperature water.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So see how it's starting to come together? What I like to do now is use my hands. And here's where this recipe, because every egg is a different size, that's one of the, like when a recipe calls for a banana, like really, bananas are this or this. So same for eggs. My eggs this morning were a little bit big. And so I might have to add a couple tablespoons of flour, but I added a tablespoon at a time. I don't just jump right in. I like to add less before I add more, because you can't take it back out. But I'm just going to give this a few minutes, and I like to just give it a good knead, if you will. Knead, like kneading.
It's really cool to see Matt and Reed like following along with your steps and
Oh,
doing
I
what you're
can't
doing in
see
their
them. They're
kitchens.
not being just like, oh, lovely. There's Matt and Reed.
I'm
You guys
hiding my not so handiwork below.
Yeah,
Bringing Matt and Reed to the front of the class here.
I love that. Okay. So mine's a little tacky. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, a little tacky. I was gonna just follow up about would you prefer using the arrowroot or the cassava as the flour
What I
option
like to
here?
do, I use more cassava,
Okay.
but what I like to do is just, here I will scoop it because it's not an accurate measurement, but I'm just going to lightly dust it.
Okay.
Not even the whole tablespoon, because you don't want to add too much, because then you're going to have to add more water, and that's a whole other thing. So there we go. I think that's a better texture. If I can, okay, Bye. Drew's leaving. See ya. Now I'm really solo. Okay, so now if I can show the texture up close, it should be nice and pliable. Is that, it's probably hard to tell, but that's kind of what you're going for. It should be,
how firm to the touch is yours, Michelle?
it's not really, I mean, if I'll give you a finger push.
Okay, great.
Now, if it is too dry, it was a little sticky, Priya. That's why I added a little dusting of flour. But let's say it is a bit too dry. And this is another tip. Rather than just pouring more water on this, I like to run my hands under the faucet and just dampen my hands and add moisture with my hands a little at a time. Because again, if you add a whole tablespoon of water, then you're gonna be a mess. You're just gonna have to start over. So anyways, it should be a nice, without cracking, and it's hard to explain because you're not here to see it in person, but it should be a nice soft dough, if that helps at all. Okay. All right. Let's roll it out. And I've got some fun tips for rolling and having success here. So let me move this out of the way. I use unbleached parchment. I just made that choice a few years back because sometimes bleached parchment, you have to wonder where it's come from and what's in it. So I use unbleached. I like to start with a little disc like this because with the pie crust, you're aiming for a circle, and I know that's often hard because you end up with an amoeba rather than a circle, but it's okay. So I will dust, lay that down, a little more dusting, parchment on top, and let me know when you guys, what I think is so cool, Reed, you're on the West Coast in Seattle.
Yeah.
Matt, they're on the East Coast. And I'm like not quite in the middle, but how fun are we? How fun are we? Okay. This is my, let me see. Let me push this back so it's a little bit more. Okay. Once the other parchment, you've got it dusted. My best trick for getting at least a good start on a circle is take your pie plate or any other flat bottom plate that doesn't have a rim. It could be a baking sheet, anything that's flat that doesn't have a little lip on it. If you'll use this and just press straight down, and it's harder for me because I'm not very tall, I have to go on my tippy toes. You just start rubbing it around because it started as a disc and you're on your way to at least a decent circle. There you go, Matt, that will work. Yeah. So at least it's a start. That's the best way. I like to dust it a little bit after.
Oh, Michelle, that's kind of iconic.
What? The pressing?
Yeah, to get it
Oh,
into like a good starting circle.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
gonna
it
use
works
that
for
for-
tortillas too. If you're
I'm gonna
making
use this for like everything.
Me too. I've never thought to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good head start. You still have to roll it out. So you still have some responsibility.
Right.
But it's okay. So, okay, now I will roll this out. And
Oh,
again, you know,
So my question is, how do you roll it out and not have it slide all over the place? Because that drives me bonkers.
like what's sliding all over the place?
Like when I do the way you're doing it, when
Yeah.
I'm rolling it, the pie crust, the whole thing is just sliding all over the countertop, so I can't
The
get a good grip. Yeah.
Because I don't do this. I use it I am holding it with one hand like this. I don't
So you hold the
use,
parchment paper down.
uh-huh, yeah. So I'm going like this. I'm holding it.
Okay.
And depending on the size of your parchment, this parchment, it measures, it's for baking sheets, for a standard baking sheet. And so my pie crust will go to probably the top edge and bottom edge, but it's that's kind of what the thickness that you want to get. So let me,
How thick are we looking to, or thin, thick? How much do we want it to be?
it is about a 1/4 inch-esque, a little less. And then this is something I started doing too. Once I have it, and this is really hard because you can't see it, it's pretty much rolled out. I like to use my hands to check for evenness. Yeah, that's great, Matt. I like to take my rolling pin and just give it a once over, like hold the parchment and just slide it across just so you can feel like it's all even and you're not, yeah. Okay. You fellas, let me know when you're to that point. We're good?
I'm good. I'll wait on Reed.
Just keep going. I'll let you know if I'm a hot mess or not. Well, I am a hot mess, but I'll let you know if I need to
We
stop.
love hot messes, Reed.
A cute hot mess, though. Reed, a cute hot mess.
We're all hot messes. Okay, this is my other tip for pie success, getting it off the parchment, because it's a nightmare and I know people have trouble. So this is, I don't even know what to call it. Maybe I should have Allie name this. She's really good at naming things. I like to take the top parchment off slowly, and it should just be a lovely crust. Dust this a little bit.
Stunning.
What we're gonna do is make this the bottom. We're gonna flip it over because it's really stuck to the bottom parchment. I mean, we've been rolling on it, so it's really stuck there. So take the top one off carefully, lightly dust it, lay that other parchment back on top, and then you grab it, you just flip it over.
Oh, God.
And it won't be a mess. You just go like that. Okay? But then, see, this one's really stuck, but it comes off super easy. And you're ready to put it in the pie tin. And the bottom side has the dusting of flour now. So it should release right into the pie tin. Does that make sense to everybody?
I need to use more. I need to use more starch.
It might have a little learning curve to it. But it has been a game changer, and it really helps it not stick to the parchment so that you're going to be able to get it released into the pie tin. So how are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. We're good? Okay. When we're ready, the theme song, what are we? Request line. I can't read the chat, so someone entertain me. Oh! Hey! I don't have a raspberry to put on the bottom, as the last little thing. Okay.
I love it.
I'm gonna load this into my pie plate if you boys are ready.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so don't press it down. Just lightly put it on your pie dough. Obviously, you don't want to press it in or you'll have a circle. And then I like to, from the back end, put my hand under and flip it. And it's gonna tear. You'll see some rips. You might not, but just press over. And then because your parchment was floured, it should come right out. And then from there, you lift it into the pie plate. And mine ripped, you can see mine ripped right off there. It's okay. This is a very forgiving crust. But you just, let me pull it back here. You lift it into the bottom of the pie plate so that it's covered on the bottom, and just use your hand. I'm taking off my hair tie, off my wrist. Okay. Now, this is where the fun comes in, because this is some other tricks my mom taught me. But once you have it pressed into the bottom and around the sides, just make sure, and if you get any rips, like I've got a good rip right here, you can just press it back together. This dough is super forgiving. So just press and fix any tears that are obvious. But we're going to take off this outer edge anyways. And you don't need special scissors. You don't need any special apparatus to do this. This is a trick my mom taught me. years ago, if you have a butter knife with just a flat edge or a knife with a flat edge, we're just gonna clean off the sides like this.
Ooh.
Just twist it around and clean the edge off like that. And you'll have a really rough pie edge here, but we're gonna have some fun and make a good pie crust edge. So there you go. That's what you're looking for. Right? Thank you. Ta-da! Okay. So go around and fix any. You can even, like, I have a really thin spot right here on the side. I can see it's really thin. I'm just gonna take a scrap of dough that I just cut off and pinch that down just to make it, you know, the same width as everything else.
I don't think I paid close enough attention when you were using the butter knife.
What? Practice makes perfect. Okay. So what we're going to do now, and this is, we're going to set this aside, the scraps that we had left over, gather those up because we're going to lay strips around the top so we have a bulkier edge that we can decorate and have fun with, if that makes sense. So let me get my parchment back over here. We're just going to roll this out. I like to start this one with just a little. You should have about that much dough left over if it's a standard pie tin. Dust your parchment a little bit more. That's too much. You don't want a ton. And we're going to roll this out into like an amoeba shape this way, or a long worm, or whatever you want to call it. Let's not say worm. Let's not. Okay. And here you're just going for, we're going to cut strips about 1/2 inch wide so we can decorate the top of the pie.
I'm so behind.
Same thing, I'm going to flip it over here too. I'm going to do the same flip. Dust it a little bit, flip it over. Ta-da. Okay. You can use a knife or whatever you'd like, but I'm going to now with this. You see, I just have, oh, it just slipped off my sheet. Okay, I'll be re-rolling this. Hold, please. Live TV, right? What are you gonna do? Here, let me fix it.
What we're rolling this into kind of what shape? This leftover?
I was trying to show everybody. It looks kind of like this.
Okay.
Because your worm, no worms. We're just gonna cut strips. We're gonna cut like 1/2 inch strips. So you can use I use my pie crust or my pizza cutter. I'm gonna cut off the one rough edge. And then we're just cutting strips. They're about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch-ish. Okay. All right, so now I've got just strips of dough. Everyone can see that. So let me move this over, bring the pie back. And all we're gonna do now is lay these on top and pinch them together so they're one continuous strip around the outside. And I like to use my pizza cutter or whatever you're using to lift it up. And we're just gonna lay it down right on top. Here, let me see if I can lift that up. You just lay it down and press it on. And this dough, if you feel like after you rolled out the strips, it's a little bit drier because we did use a little more flour, you can use your finger and just wet the outer edge of the pie crust if you feel like it needs it. It's not required. So let me.
Ah.
And we're just putting these on to like create a lip at the top. Is that?
Yeah, so that we can add some cute edging, some great finish. Because here's the thing, and I'll say this all the time, once the filling's in the pie, the prettiest part besides the filling is the edge around the outside. So you might as well have fun with it and make it decorative. And that's just my philosophy. But
yeah,
okay. There you go. So Now it looks kind of rough, but all you're gonna do now is pinch it all together and create like a lip that stands up like this. And I will show you what that looks like when I'm done. But you just pinch press it down, make sure it's all, again, this is kind of like Play-Doh for adults. I swear, I like to have fun in the kitchen. That's all there is to it. So I'm just going around and I'm squeezing and creating this little lip along the side here. And I'll show it, I'll get it closer to the camera. This is when it'd be great to have a camera up above, you know? Why don't we have a studio? I don't know. Okay. So, all right. And check for any pie dough that might be lurking underneath the edge. Sometimes pie dough likes to hang out down here. But if you can see the little edge, I've kind of created a little, you know, edge that sticks up above the pie plate. And I can see that
Thanks,
it's
Helen.
not, see this air bubble. You can also check for air bubbles and squeeze those out too. Okay, so you've got a little lip, basically. How are we doing? Reed, Matt?
I'm nailing it.
I feel like this is speed pie crust making, and I apologize. We're going at breakneck speed.
I'm doing the best I can. I think she's gonna be
You know what?
a cute firstborn.
She's gonna be rustic, is what she's gonna
Rustic.
be.
Yes, Reed, she's rustic.
You know what? It'll taste
Also a
very-
classic Great British Baking Show term, rustic.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so here's where the fun comes in. Because
Ugh.
I like to
What's next?
basically have fun, like I've already said. You can, so I will say my mom taught me the crimping edge, which is great. And everyone's method for doing that is different. I do it like this. So you can create that kind of an edge if you want.
On my face, sorry.
Or, oh, sorry, Matt, did you see it?
Yeah, I was trying to look.
Okay. Okay, but you know,
I love you so much.
Don't look at me. Turn me off.
Here's the deal. You have a
I'm-
bunch of things in your kitchen that will make very creative and fun edges. One of my favorite is a nutcracker.
No, I never thought to use that.
Oh,
neat
yeah,
idea.
that's
You
brilliant.
can, I'm gonna have a hard time doing this and showing it, but you can do it straight on, or you can do it at an angle.
Ooh.
Okay.
Could I use like a chopstick?
You can use whatever, Matt. I mean,
That's what I was
honestly,
gonna suggest, is trying a
find a
chopstick.
cute fork. See this fork, the top of
Oh,
it?
that's pretty.
Yeah.
So you can use that. Like you can, let me just do a couple here. You could do them both directions too. You could do it that way or this way. I don't want to drop. So, or yeah, Matt, like this is just a cool wooden spoon I have. Like you can do the same with a wooden spoon.
Michelle, I'm gonna bring you back to the front so you can show all this detail work a little bit larger for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there's all different ways, and you can also, there's nothing wrong with using your fork. Like that's the tradition, you know, that's the quickest way, but I say do it at an angle and you just have a little bit more variety for your eyes. So you could go like this, or you could do a crisscross. You can go back and do a little rickrack pattern like that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I like that one.
So you can, there's just no like.
Oh, that's the one.
I even have this cute, like it's a Coke bottle opener, but it's got a really cute little knob at the end, so you can, you know, use something like that.
What were you
Or
saying about using a spoon? Oh, that's what you're gonna show us?
I was just grabbing my spoon. So you can use the end of your spoon, but you can also use the front of your spoon. You can do it, I'll do some forward and backwards. And by that, I mean the way that you do it on the pie crust. You can even do it this way. For a spoon. Or you can, I have got a whole bevy of pie crust cutters, like I have probably too many, but these are really fun. A few of my pies on Food Social have little pie crust cutters like that. These were a gift from my mother-in-law. She's been gone about 18 years, but she passed along cute little flower cutters. You probably can't see that very well. Oops. It's a flower. You can cut out little flowers and lay those along the top and press them down. So I just think it's about being creative and deciding what works best and what you're going to fill it with, or whether you're going to bake an apple pie. But if you decide you don't like any of these, you can press the dough back together and start again. So that's to a point. I mean, at some point this dough is going to dry out. So you either cover it or bake it if you're going to do a filled pie. And so any questions beyond to that point?
Okay, let's say it's perfect. We'll just
Of course
go with
it is.
that. It's so flawless. What can I do, like, if I need to make my filling now? Because that's what's going off as my sweet potatoes. I need to let them cool. Can I just cover this with like plastic wrap and put it
And
in the
just let
fridge?
it set. Yeah, it's going to be
Let it-
fine at room temperature.
Okay.
You can make these ahead of time. Allie, there's a link in there for making ahead. I did a reel. You can make pie crust ahead of time and wrap them in plastic in a disc, put them in the freezer, and then take them out and use them for whenever, if you want to get ahead of the game for a big holiday meal. It refrigerates well. You can bake the pie first, put the baked shell in the freezer in a bag, freeze it, pull it out when you're ready to fill the day of the meal. But if you're going to make a filled crust, and if you're going to pre-bake this for like a lemon meringue pie, which is one of our faves, you do have to remember to pierce the bottom so that when it cooks, the steam doesn't create like a big hollow dome as you're baking it. And I will say, depending on the recipe for the filling that you're using, just follow those instructions because everyone's recipe is a little bit different. But I like to sprinkle the bottom with a little bit of sugar so that it gives it a little crust, so that when you put your lemon meringue in, or your banana cream, or whatever, coconut cream, chocolate pudding, it has kind of a little crust to it. So it makes the texture a little bit better once the pie has been setting and the filling's in there and you don't have a soggy bottom. So, but that's my take. Now, apple pies, those have a double crust where you put the crust on top. Matt, let me see. That looks so good.
Dun-dun.
What are you making?
Woohoo!
Oh God. I haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
Might be what do I have in the pantry?
Yeah.
Because you know it's not gonna be pumpkin.
Yeah. Ugh, I don't like pumpkin pie. Ugh. I like pumpkin muffins, but only with chocolate in them. That's just me. What about you? Oh, he's making potato pie. I baked this cherry galette. This is cool enough now. And you can see it leaked all over on one side. Bill, I have two chocolate pies on the blog or on Food Social. So there's my cherry galette. This is basically a rustic pie. It's an inside out pie, I like to call it, and it's much easier to make. You don't have to worry about the edge. You can just have a lovely crispy crust. I love texture, so I really love a galette. One pie crust will also make 4 mini pies. So if you have these little mini tins, I make my pecan pies in these because no one else likes it but me and my sister. So I make little pecan pies. One of the links, I'm not sure what all she may have already dropped, but I have a couple of lives that I've done with other people making hand pies, mini pies, made a galette with Martha. So any other questions? Mini hand pies with Dawn. Yes, that was
Oh,
Sean, paleo gluten-free guy.
I think the thing that most people that on this call might sort of naturally understand, but others might not, is that pies are part of Thanksgiving. And so like as you're thinking about preparing for Thanksgiving, how do you work pie making into your timeline and workflow?
Well, I usually make pie crust Monday before, I wrap them in plastic in a disc, and that's one of the reels that Allie can drop for me where I basically put them in the fridge, they're ready to go. And
Yeah.
if it's for a filled pie, I will bake those crusts the day before so that they're ready to go and just store them in the fridge. Here in Utah, it's cold enough I can store it in the garage on top of my car, away from anything that might crawl up there. And if it's a baked fruit pie, those are sometimes even better baked the day before. You don't have the oven space for it the next day anyway, so you might as well bake those kind of pies ahead of time. I will say this pie crust, as much as I've tried, is really hard to get a whole nother pie crust on top to make like a traditional apple pie, because it does tend to break. And then once it's on the fruit, it kind of gets gloopy. Lattice is also really difficult or a little tricky. I did a cherry pie with a stripped kind of lattice. I didn't do back and forth because the more you move it, it just tends to be a little fragile. But yeah, any kind of pies you can get done ahead of time and you don't have the oven space on the day of the meal, just eliminate it and get it done way before. And then like for lemon meringue, I will make the meringue the day of because that's just better fresh. Because as soon as the next day, it just starts to get a little weepy usually. So that's what I do. I try and eliminate anything in my oven that I don't have to have in the oven the days ahead. So if that is a very long-winded answer to that question.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for people to sort of mentally like understand just the overall timeline of Thanksgiving too, like when you're
Yeah,
defrosting the turkey,
yeah,
when you're brining it, when you're making your pies,
yeah.
what can you make a day or two ahead of time? Just because if you're hosting, it can be
Oh, it's
crazy.
a lot. Yeah, and that's why growing up, I got the pies, because once I was old enough, my mom was making rolls and the turkey. Like, I still don't know how she did everything in one day. It just blows my mind, but she did. But that's why pies were my thing. So I was assigned that. And so we did make them the day of, which, again, the less you have to do the day of, the less stressed you'll be, hopefully. I mean, it's just a stressful day to cook, I think, but also fun. But I have repinched all my edges so I can finish it however I want. I will say, let's see, the pie crust mix is in the market, so please grab some if you want. The recipe's also there if you don't want to buy a mix. The recipe is, I can say it's pretty easy to use, but I've been using it for 9 years, so I'm speaking from a different place. Maybe Matt and Reed should say what they think.
I think it's easy. I mean, what I'll say is I wanted to do this. I'm maybe gonna teach a pie making class in a couple weeks. I've done them more traditionally with a friend who's also not a G-free pie
Yeah.
expert, but I'm always hit or miss. But one of the things I did want to ask about this particular one, just because of these flowers, is do you have any tips for how to tint the edges of the pie when you've got like a long bake?
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
Perfect.
You need a pie crust shield, because like for my pecan pie, it's my mom's recipe that I adapted as a paleo version. That pie bakes a long time because you have to make sure the custard is set. So I don't use this the whole time, but I use it like the last 15 minutes. It just depends on your oven, what a temperature you're baking in. But if you start to see like it's getting too brown, you can just set that right on top. Because if you set it on too soon, you'll pull the crust off. It'll stick to the crust and start to bake to the crust. So I would invest in a pie shield. I used to use foil, and that's a nightmare. It was just worth the investment of getting one of these, because as clunky as it is to store, it's really a convenient kitchen gadget that is beneficial. So
I have a silicone one, just so you know that they do make them in silicone.
Oh, yeah, that would be even better. Yeah.
I
I
have a
haven't seen
silicone
that.
one, but I've
That's
never
cool.
used. So I always just like I like see that my crust is browning and I like grab the foil and then struggle and then knock the
Yeah.
one side off and
It's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one follower message me, they were trying to do that and their pie fell on the floor. You know, it's like, oh, you can't recover from that on the day of. It's just like, do you have time? It's not, no time to start over. It's just like pie down. So anyways, anything else? Reed, did you?
yeah, I just have a couple other things that are
Yeah,
useful for me, but I think useful for anyone who's watching this.
yeah,
In terms of making these crusts in advance, and maybe you touched on this a little bit, but like, can you just talk a little bit more about freezing or refrigerating or what like works or doesn't work for this particular recipe?
yeah. What I for freezing, I have done both. I freeze in those in the disc. You know how we started, we're ready to go. I wrap those individually in plastic and freeze them. I would say give yourself plenty of time to let it come to room temperature all by itself. You don't want to try and force it. Just make that something that's on your to-do list for the holidays so that you know, oh, I need to take pie crust out. So if you're going to make them pie crust the day before, you would take the pie dough out maybe the day before that, put them in the fridge, and then the day of take them out and let them just come to room temp, like take them out in the morning. Because I've had these, I have another pie dough here all ready to go. I wasn't sure how much time we'd have, so I have one ready to go, but I will just press this down and I can stick it in the freezer and it'll be ready. You know, it'll be fine for a few weeks. But I have also, you can freeze this. You know, there's the big 2-gallon zipper bags, and I know they're plastic and a lot of people don't like to do that, but whatever, you do you. But you can slide an undone crust into a bag and freeze it. You can bake this first if you want it. Then when I freeze a bake, I put the paper towel in just for moisture, so that moisture doesn't soak into the crust in the freezer. But then you just take it out and also just let it come to room temperature before you begin filling it with a bake, you know, like if you've baked it ahead of time, before you pour in the filling, or before you fill it with apple pie filling and go from there. So, but this strip thing that I did will work with standard. I mean, that's the way I grew up making it, with all standard all-purpose flour. So that is just a fun thing to do. I will say, if you have extra pie dough, don't throw it out. Just make pie crust cookies. And all that is the pie dough cut into little shapes, cinnamon sugar, and bake them. And it is a treat that all of us as kids, my sister's shaking her head, that we look forward to. Like the leftover pie scraps, we still ate. No waste. So anyways.
Yeah, I would put I sometimes will take the leftover and use like a little leaf cutter.
Yeah.
And then I'll cut little leaves and then put that around the edge. And I've seen you do some stuff like that.
Yeah, I have a apple pie like that, an apple, salted caramel apple pie on Food Social that has a bunch of leaves all over the top, and it's so fun to do those. Again, I like to play with my food, so it might not be for everyone. It's a little bit more time consuming, but it's a lot of fun. So,
I whipped together an apple filling, so we're gonna go with that.
Matt, look at you go! He's on the roll. I can't wait to see what it. Is that an existing recipe, or did you just pull that out of your hat?
I've done so many, I've done like apple galettes and so many different like fruit fillings. So I know it's just like sugar, a little liquid, like whatever spices you want, so and a little bit of starch. So
nice.
That's
awesome.
that's on my training this year.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing.
Thanks,
well,
Chad.
We all have a piece of galette, cherry galette. I guess Danielle could come over and have some if she would like, but I do love the galette. I just, Drew, my husband, likes it with ice cream on top. I'm not an ice cream with pie fan. I just like my pie. Personal, everyone either loves it or doesn't, but any other questions? I know this has been like lightning. It's like speed dating, but
I think that's why I felt so motivated to get this done, because I feel like I'm in the Chops kitchen. Like I got to get this apple pie on the judges' table in 10 minutes.
chop. Speed learning, yes, it is. But if you have any other questions, anyone can reach out and ask me whatever. But A live chopped. I've done those, Allie. Those are
Yeah.
so,
Allie, don't tempt me with a good time,
yeah.
especially if I'm drinking coffee. Like game over.
Yeah, that's
We gotta do it. So fun.
but this has been great. I know I said at the beginning, but it's
she's
been a rough week emotionally for me. I had to step away from a lot just to clear my head. But this I had really been looking forward to because it's two things. It's I'm in the kitchen baking and I'm hanging out with people that I consider dear friends. So it's been a lot of fun, and I know I've been like all over the place. That's the way I roll. But anything else? Anyone have any random questions? Please come visit. We'll do this in person. I'm looking at all of you. You're all more than welcome to show up at my house and, you know, bake anytime. I know it's farther for Matt and Allie and all the Pittsburgh folks out there, Jersey and Pittsburgh, but you know, I love the music.
Thank you, Michelle. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Michelle.
Amazing.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you guys. See ya.
Have a good weekend.